Now, CBS 13 is on your side, live at 5.
First at 5, Roe v. Wade at risk. Good evening, I'm Greg Lagerquist.
I'm Jen Long. Shockwaves from the Supreme Court as the court appears to be getting ready to repeal nearly 50 years of federal protection for abortion rights.
This comes from a leaked draft ruling in which the conservative majority calls Roe v. Wade unconstitutional. Looking live now in Portland, a demonstration getting underway for abortion rights, and there are rallies for and against Roe happening around the country right now. We are covering reaction in Maine and in Washington.
Rallies are underway here and across the country. Scott Thuman looks at what's in the draft and reaction on Capitol Hill.
What do we do? Stand up, fight back!
Few subjects embody Supreme Court controversy more than abortion. The passions on display each year amplified now after a leaked draft signaled the court's poised to overturn Roe v. Wade. Some on the left calling it a brave act to pressure justices to change their minds.
If this decision holds, it's really quite a radical decision.
For numerous states, having already crafted laws, here either in green to expand abortion access or in yellow to limit it, their legality in limbo pending the Supreme Court's decision.
It rocks my confidence in the court right now.
An extremist Supreme Court is going to impose their views on the rest of America.
If Roe versus Wade, in fact, is overturned, the outcome will not be that abortion is suddenly illegal everywhere. The outcome will be that each state will decide.
Immediately, there were calls for Congress to add more justices to the Supreme Court, what's called court packing, in order to counter what's seen as a conservative tilt, or even to pass laws here on the Hill that would federally secure abortion rights.
The elections this November will have consequences because the rights of 100 million women are now on the ballot.
Democrats calling for action, noting the Senate confirms justices and seats some on the left now decry as stolen.
This means that, once again, the midterm elections are about generating your base and making them mad at the other side. For liberal Democrats, it's the right wants to take away women's right to choose. They want to continue to restrict voting rights. Don't forget Donald Trump is still lurking out there in the bushes somewhere. On the right, it's we've finally won. We're finally getting forward. They may push other cultural war issues.
In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
Senator Susan Collins is saying little on Capitol Hill. She voted to confirm 2 of former President Trump's 3 conservative justices, saying they told her they felt Roe was, quote, settled law. In a 2-sentence statement released by her office this morning, she writes in part, if this leaked draft opinion is the final decision and this reporting is accurate, it would be completely inconsistent with what Justice Gorsuch and Justice Kavanaugh said in their meetings and in our meetings in my office. Today, reporters swarmed Senator Susan Collins. She would only say her statement speaks for itself and didn't answer any more questions. In 2018, she was the crucial swing vote confirming Justice Kavanaugh. At the time, she told CNN that she did not believe Judge Kavanaugh would overturn Roe v. Wade.
He said it should be extremely rare that it be overturned, and it should be an example.
So you have obviously full confidence.
I do.
Let's go live now to CBS 13's Mal Meyer. He's following how leaders on both sides of this issue here in Maine are reacting to this leaked draft, Mal.
Yeah, across the U.S., abortion rates have remained relatively unchanged in recent years. Here in Maine, data shows about 2,000 were performed in 2019. Now, some organizations are expecting to see a surge in demand, depending on what happens in other states.
So this is exciting news.
It's a moment pro-life groups have been waiting for. The U.S. Supreme Court seemingly ready to overturn Roe versus Wade.
Some people say this is the end, and I think the way the Christian Civic League looks at it is this is the beginning.
That's because overturning Roe would not mean that abortion is illegal. Rather, it would be up to the states to decide how to move forward.
What we would probably see, at least in the near future, would be states that are, approve abortion and states that totally don't approve abortion.
So we know that Mainers will continue to have those protections.
In the 90s, Republican Governor John McKernan signed the Reproductive Privacy Act into law here in Maine, protecting a woman's right to end a pregnancy before viability. But Planned Parenthood says that's not the case in several other states.
And those people are going to turn to states like Maine.
U.S. CDC data shows about 5% of abortions in Maine were obtained by out-of-state residents in 2019. But since more states like Texas have enacted restrictions recently, Planned Parenthood says they're seeing more of a demand.
And so we fully anticipate and are planning for people coming from across the country to access care here.
Though that will mean some seeking an abortion will be left behind without any options.
Because they can't afford it, they can't get the time off, they don't have the child care. People are going to be harmed by this.
For the Christian Civic League, that increases the importance of offering alternatives and supporting those in these tough situations.
And that will be a lot of our efforts, will be just to make sure that women know that there are resources.
So even though Maine does have these laws in place protecting access to an abortion, activists say they're only an election away from being overturned. What this means for the midterms coming up tonight at 6. Reporting live in Portland, Mel Meyer, CBS 13 News. Jen?
Val, thank you. And happening right now in downtown Portland, pro-choice demonstrators are rallying in support. Our CBS 13's Owen Kingley is there. And Owen, what can you tell us about what's going on?
Yeah, Jen, hundreds are protesting right now outside the federal courthouse in Portland. I'm going to step aside and let you listen to some of the speakers going on right now for just a moment.
To talk about abortion as a moral choice and women as moral agents who should have autonomy over our own bodies. Because God and Goddess know that we should be trusted. At that panel discussion,
We'll have more on everything going on here tonight. We'll hear from other speakers coming up later in the newscast. Live in Portland, I'm Owen Kingsley, CBS 13 News. Jen, Greg, back to you both.
All right, Owen Kingsley live for us in Portland. Thank you, Owen. Governor Janet Mills, facing re-election this year, says regardless of what the court does, she will fight to protect reproductive rights in Maine. CBS 13's Marissa Bodner is at the live desk. And Marissa, the governor says that the ruling to end Roe would be, quote, incredibly dangerous.
That's right, Greg. Governor Mills calls Justice Samuel Alito's language in that draft, quote, extreme and extraordinary. She says the draft, if it becomes a ruling, not only threatens the independence of women, but their health as well. The governor said in a statement early this morning that she repeated to me, quote, I do not consider the rights of women to be dispensable. She says she's already taken steps as governor to protect reproductive rights in statute in Maine and expanded the scope of practice, making reproductive health care more accessible to women in rural areas.
We can't go backward on this right. For Justice Alito and any of his followers to suggest that there's no right of privacy in the U.S. Constitution, that threatens more than just the right to reproductive health, the right to abortion. It threatens all kinds of rights of privacy, including the right to access birth control itself. Married or unmarried individuals, men or women, the right to access birth control, the right to privacy in your own personal care. Those are very serious threats to very serious constitutional rights.
The governor says if the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade, she pledges access to abortion will be safe and legal in Maine as long as she's the governor. Greg?
All right, Marissa, thanks. And speaking of that, we did ask former Governor Paul LePage, if elected again this fall, and if the Supreme Court does in fact overturn Roe v. Wade, if he as governor would move to ban abortion here in Maine. His spokesman would not give a direct yes or no answer to that. Instead, he referred us to a statement that the campaign put out earlier today, which reads in part, the federal government has regularly prohibited taxpayer abortion funding, except in cases of rape, incest, or when the mother's life is in danger. And I have supported that policy and will continue to do so. Maine state law already prohibits abortion after viability, and our laws should keep pace with modern medical technology.
There are plenty of comments on our page on Facebook. Joanne writes, quote, this is such a step backwards. We need to step up for female equality in the Senate, Congress, and courts. Tom writes, quote, I won't debate the moral or ethical issues, but in my mind, this has always been a 10th Amendment issue. The Fed has no business getting involved. You can head to facebook.com/WGME13 to weigh in. Coming up after the break, from candidate for governor to child porn suspect.
The investigation thus far has revealed a long-standing, untreated, and severe addiction to child pornography.
Newly released court documents in the Elliot Cutler case. Ahead, what police allegedly found, and Cutler's bail adjusted.
And the new attacks on hundreds of civilians and soldiers in Ukraine, why the eastern part of that country could soon fall to Russia.
And many areas are seeing some afternoon sun today. Don't get too comfortable. We're tracking some wet weather moving in, how much cooler it's going to get, and when we'll touch the 60s again. It's in my forecast next.